Hello everybody, it's Gill-boy here, and I'm really excited to be reviewing Absolute Batman issue 15 with you today. As you can see, I've got my tinfoil hat ready because we're going to do a very deep dive into issue 15 of Absolute Batman. And that's right, it's going to be going down a severe rabbit hole on who the Joker truly is. So come on down, get yourself comfortable here at the lagoon, get your drinks, your snacks, and let us review Absolute Batman issue 15. All right, everybody, here we are. Here is the default standard issue cover of Absolute Batman issue 15, and here is the rather disturbing variant cover of issue 15 of Absolute Batman. Now there is another variant cover, if I'm not mistaken. There's two other variant covers. I know there's at least four. There might be more, a line of 6, but as far as I know, there's only about 4. And unfortunately, the other two variant covers that they had at the comic book store were already sold out. But I will make one of the thumbnails of this video of the variant cover that I very much wish that I would have been able to get, but I might just order it off of eBay. But anyways, let's go ahead and discuss this. So I kind of don't really tend to read too much of modern comic books anymore because they're just really not that good in my opinion. Like, you have to pay close to $5, $6, sometimes $8. The storyline is like mid at best, or it's just decent enough, and then the art is really just poorly drawn, or it's artificial. So it's just really not worth spending that kind of money on modern comic books, in my opinion. However, this is written by Scott Snyder and drawn by Jock, and I believe the inks and letterings is done by Martin. I will just go ahead and say that I was really blown away by this issue. I've heard nothing but good things about Absolute Batman. Now, this is the first time in my experience of reading Absolute Batman, so I'm kind of behind, and I'll give you my first thoughts and feedbacks very shortly. But let's go ahead and open up this comic. I have it already out of its bag here, and let's play a look. So basically, this issue starts off with Alfred, Pennyworth speaking to Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, about somebody called Jack Grimm. And I feel like changing the Joker's name to Jack is definitely a homage to Batman 1989, with Jack Nicholson playing the Joker, giving his iconic performance. Well, I'm not quite sure what has happened in the previous issues, but it seems that Bruce and Alfred are kind of there's some kind of tension between him, and Alfred's like, look, bro, go ahead and get your tinfoil hat on, which you saw me had on a minute ago, because he starts talking about Jack Grimm and how he has these kind of private islands, and he does some kind of nefarious hunting on these islands and does questionable experiments on some miners on this island. So you can see we're heading into a deep rabbit hole. And as you can see, this is very much like that iconic internet meme of Always Sunny at Philadelphia, with the whole conspiracy theory thing. And anybody who does look into conspiracy theories, you know that there is this kind of like awkward like rabbit hole that leads you down and makes you see the world differently. And I have to just commend Scott Snyder here as the writer of really just taking the Joker into a hyper dark area of all this. I think it's very fitting, because I think a lot of people are angry with the kind of things that are happening in the world pertaining to this kind of topic. I have to be careful here on YouTube about talking about that kind of stuff, but as you can see, you kind of got some kind of like Pennywise vibes here with the Joker, which is great. And as a cinemaphile, I really like how they brought in how, like, it says here, it starts here with one of the first films ever recorded, maybe the actual first, 1888, same year as Le Prince's The Rondé Garden scene. And then, of course, Batman's like, and who am I looking at? His great-grandfather in the top hat? No, in the makeup, the boy, the clown. Joseph Grimm, 1, Jack, The story is, he grew up an orphan on the streets of Gotham, made his living as a street performer. They say he was good, too. Best around, said you could hear the laughter for blocks and blocks, though he himself never much as chuckled. So I really like how they just kind of tie it into like old school film. They even, I think, name drop the Rockefellers over here or something like that soon. I know they do at least, and how they talk about how he opened up all this kind of charity stuff involved with the orphanage. So this is very similar, and I feel like it's the writer kind of trying to speak about hidden truths. So if you are aware of this kind of how dark the world really is, I think that you'll get a lot of comfort from this issue because other people see it as well. And I like how it says Hollywood land and stuff like that. And it just goes to show like, oh, well, his next ancestor, who was Jack Jr. or Jack Grimm II, as you see here, he got into film and in Hollywood and the orphanage, and he took care of all the kids, and then he got into mainstream media and the video games, and of course, now we're kind of getting closer to modern times, so, hardware and software and microchips of computer hardware and stuff like that. So it gets a little Jeff Bezos, Muskian kind of territory here. And goes back and shows how this person has his own private island, and Alfred talks about how the satellites can't really show what's going on, and I think there's some kind of nefarious stuff going on here. And then it's starting to show how he stole nitrous oxide from the dentistry, released it on the street to cause people to laugh and kind of brainwash them. And just look at that. It's so, it's very Pennywise, so it's cool. And then, of course, it's showing how Jack Grimm is kind of like the Shell Corporation, who played both sides in World War II. So really, there's a lot of hidden truth and history that they're fantasizing with the Joker here. So if you want to go down that actual rabbit hole, I would implore you do. But just be careful, because it gets kind of disturbing, because it does lead to these kind of private islands with these rich people hunting, human beings, cannibalisms, and of course, horrific experiments on children with them harnessing their blood, and all of that kind of creepy, Mr. Epstein stuff going on there. And I just love it. It's like Alfred is taking Bruce down this horrific rabbit hole about how this guy basically becomes in a way, the devil himself. So I really can't hype this issue up enough. I'll just go ahead and say I think the art is phenomenal. The writing is phenomenal. To me, this is like a 10 out of 10 story. I would highly recommend you go pick up this issue now. Like I said, I just kind of jumped in on this issue. I don't really know what's going on prior, but I do not regret buying this issue. And I just think it's just amazing, because these kind of people, do exist. You have these billionaires who are kind of above the law, and the more you do go down rabbit holes, you see that they've kind of created this kind of pyramid scheme for all of us peasants to live on and profit off of our suffering and steal all of our money through taxes and stuff like that. And it would be nice if there was a Batman to, pimp slap these people back into their places. Now, if I had to say one bad thing about this issue, and this could just be me as an angry older man screaming at the sky, but I didn't really care for Batman dropping F-bombs or Alfred dropping F-bombs. Now, like I said, I'm coming in at issue 15, so maybe there's something that happened in the prior issues that showed some kind of tension between these two characters. But I'm not a fan of that. I just really not. So if I had to say one bad thing about that, that's one thing. If you don't have a problem with it, I can understand why. But me being an old school Batman fan, I've never really been a fan of Batman cursing. I'm fine with the villains and the crooks and the goons and the gangsters doing that, but not for Batman. And so, like I said, if I'm trying to find something bad to say about this comic, and if that's the one thing I can, that's it. But I like how Jack Grimm here looks kind of like a evil Bruce Wayne. It's kind of like a mockery, a perversion of what a rich person could do with their wealth. And I like how he's got a butler that's similar to Alfred. And as we saw in the previous panels, he already feasted on human flesh and the blood of children. And they're saying, "Are you hungry?" And he's like, "No, I ate." And then you cut here, and it's like, well, I'll be in the cave, you know. So the next issue will show Absolute Wonder Woman. So, like I said, I can't hype this comic up enough. I'm a huge Scott Snyder fan. I think he's given us some of the best Batman runs in the modern time. You know, he has that legendary Court of Owls run, which is basically the Batman taking down the Illuminati. So it makes sense that he would, in Absolute Batman, turn Joker into this kind of like Epstein, this kind of shadowy billionaire figure that does unspeakable things to children and manipulates the news and corporations and governments. I think it's a genius idea. And just look at how disturbing he looks, man. That just looks like a demon. So it just, to me, I think it's perfect. And I can't wait to see what's in store next in this comic line. And it actually really makes me want to go out and collect the other issues. I'll probably buy the trade because I just really want to read it, but I definitely know that my comic book store that I buy my comics from has at least the first 5 issues or 6 issues, so I'll probably snag those and then maybe purchase the rest off of eBay. So anyways, I would have to say I give this a 10 out of 10. I really think it's a masterpiece, and I really love how this cover art is kind of a homage to Batman Begins and The Dark Knight with the Joker card, and I think it's just phenomenal, you know. And what else can I say about this? You know, to me, I feel like it was a very comforting issue. It's very disturbing and dark and more for adults. But I think that's what's needed right now. I think we do need that kind of closure because we see all these, these powers that be doing the kind of things that the Joker's doing in this comic book, and yet none of them are in jail. You know, none of them are behind bars, and it would be nice to see justice be served for once. So if you're angry about the world and you just want to get a good story about good overcoming evil, I would highly recommend this issue. And also, just again, look at how twisted and grotesque that variant cover is. And like I said, the thumbnail is the other variant cover that I wish I could show off, but they didn't have it. So anyways, let me know what you think about this comic. Did you read it? Are you enjoying Absolute Batman? Did you think it was absolute mid-man, or did you think it was absolute peak man? For me, I feel like this is peak, and I can't wait to get all caught up reading issues 1 through 14 and that annual, and seeing where they take this from there. So just kind of in conclusion of this video, I do plan to review more modern comic books, but I will have a couple of more comic book reviews coming your way of some older Batman comic books and a Green Lantern comic book of the week of Christmas. So stay tuned for all that. And until then, stay salty, stay spooky. Bye, everyone. And don't forget, justice never sleeps. You're going down, Absolute Joker, because I'm Absolute fucking Batman.